Begin afresh every morning. Devotional thoughts for women.
Hello, my beloved friends. Today, September 14, 2023, our devotional is entitled Glimpses of Heaven. The scripture reading is taken from Matthew chapter 17, verse 6. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid. Jesus chose Peter, James, and John to show them a glimpse of heaven. They would also be witnesses of the most agonizing moment for their master. Mark chapter 14, verse 33. The transfiguration occurred immediately after Jesus had spoken clearly to his disciples about his suffering and death. They were discouraged because they didn't understand the purpose of his ministry, and they imagined a Messiah who would establish himself with earthly power and would liberate them from the Roman Empire. Jesus invited his three closest friends to go to a mountain with him. The greatest events that are described in the Bible occurred on mountains. Abraham offered his son on Mount Moriah. Moses contemplated the burning bush on Mount Horeb. He received the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. And from Mount Pisgah he saw the Promised Land. Elijah ascended to heaven from Mount Horeb, and Jesus died on Mount Calvary. We do not know on what mountain the Transfiguration took place, but it is possible it was on Mount Hermon, where Jesus often went to pray. Where do you usually pray? Jesus sought close communion with his Father in order to complete his mission, and he prayed asking for strength for his disciples. While they slept and Jesus prayed, the mysterious transfiguration took place. That explosion of light and brilliance woke them up. The face of Jesus shone like the sun, and his robes were translucent like light. The disciples were overcome with reverent fear. Luke chapter 9, verses 33 and 34. There stood Elijah, representing those who would be taken directly to heaven. 2 Kings chapter 2, verses 11 and 12. And Moses, symbolizing those who would be resurrected from the dead. Judas chapter 9. They were a representation of the redeemed throughout all the ages. The three friends were amazed. Who was Jesus, that even the dead obeyed him? They thought of building 3 monuments, but they were interrupted by the voice of God the Father. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him." Matthew chapter 17, verse 5. The greatness of Jesus could not be contained in any kind of memorial. There were no more words. The disciples fell on their knees in worship, fear, and reverence. A correct concept of God will cause us to worship him correctly. Contemplate the greatness of God, and your fears will be transformed into the fear of God. When was the last time that a revelation of his greatness left you speechless or breathless? As your reverence for God grows, your fears will diminish.